What is happening, you guys? I know I've been a bit AWOL the last month because February I wanted to do some recharging. I wanted to enjoy some life and get some stuff in the works for 2019. So I am gonna try to get a couple of updates up for today, ask some or answer some questions. Come on, buddy. I got Waffles with me. He was smelling a spot a little too long, so we need to get moving. Get moving on the other side of the dam. But it's the 28th today. I wanted to start getting some stuff out there before March-April timeframe, because the next 60 days is going to be pretty intense for us in Ascension. Everything is going to be moving so much quicker, and you're like, well, how the fuck can we handle it moving even quicker than it has already this year? Well, we can handle it, you guys. It's all about the upgrades. It's all about pushing the limits. And what I want you to understand, this life, this experience is about pushing boundaries. Don't ever be complacent, you guys. Don't ever be comfortable. Don't ever find yourself in a situation where you feel like, okay, this is as good as it gets. This is the best, you know. I don't need to excel anymore. I don't need to change anymore. I don't need to learn anymore. I can just sit here and go stagnant now because this is the best there is. No, there's never a best there is. There's never a finish line in life. Okay, you guys keep learning. Always be the student. Always be after that next experience. That's what this is all about. So whenever you think you've reached a certain point, like, wow, it can't get any better than this, you know, wow, now I've gotten my twin, I don't need to really worry about anything else, you know. That's the thing about this journey that teaches us, even once we reach that point, we still have so much life, so much more experience to partake in. And we don't need to be locked in this, like, okay, we've gotten to the finish line, now we need to just go and do our own thing and figure things out and leave that contract be, because that will be what comes and bites you in the ass. That's what the whole journey and the process teaches us to stay away from. So whenever you do find yourself in a situation where you luck up and everything starts going right, don't start pulling back. You know, you're only in the third quarter, if you will. If you stop playing the game in the third quarter, you're gonna lose by the time the fucking fourth quarter comes around, you know? And you gotta play all the way to the end of the fucking game. Hey, Waffles, I want you to come here. Waffles, come. So when I sit here today, there's a couple of questions that came up that I wanted to address first and foremost. One of them was an excellent question, and I even forgot to reply to it this morning when I read it, because I was so like moving for work and been busy with work, busy with play, out of doors doing the bushcraft thing, really enjoying it. That's gonna be what I sink my career into next year, for the most part, is following that path, because it's my passion. It's what I enjoy, you know. And I think it's about damn time that I start living my passion. And I always suggest to you guys, live your passion, but you don't just quit one day what's providing food for you and your family, if you will, and follow your passion and put yourself in a sticky situation. Some of that will work for you guys, and sometimes it's better played if you know, take certain steps and precautions and move accordingly. So you know what, I'm gonna let you guys check out the pond a little bit, and the geese is behind us, so I'm gonna sit like so, that way I can keep an eye on my dog. And that question was, let me think about it. It was, okay, it seems like I knew when I'm going to fall back into place with my twin. I knew a lot of these things involving that aspect. How did I know? And talk a little bit on that whole experience, and that is something that I personally can say, yeah, I did. It's the way that it worked for me. If you understand how memories work, you just have a memory come to you. You know, it's not like some voice in the back of your head says this, that, and the other. That's essentially what I liken it to. It's like when I have visions, they're in dreams, in dream state, or it's almost like it just is a memory, like it already had happened, but it's in the future. And I understand, hell, I don't even know those people in that memory. How the fuck can that be a memory type of thing, That's how it comes to us. At least that's how it comes to me, and the way that I understand it, that's how it comes to the vast majority. You feel like, well, how do I know this? How do I prove that? Where's my confirmation, if you will? Well, you get so much confirmation during the day that you don't liken it to what's going on with anything else. You get your numbers, your synchronicities, your 555s and your 1111 and all those things. Those come about in order to show you, hey, this is what's happening here. You are a light worker, you are a twin flame, you are on this path, this journey, and you need to pay the attention to these thoughts that pop in your head. So that's one of the key things. Some people ask me, what does this mean? What do these synchronicities mean? And it's your higher self, it's the other side trying to prove to you you're not crazy. This is for reals. So you can take steps accordingly, and you can trust what you're feeling. Whenever you know something, for me, it was the hardest thing to take that information that, okay, it's not the right time, and you will essentially destroy every fucking thing if you force this moment and try to make it the right time. Having that information felt like a curse, all of these. One instance, okay, just today I found out for sure that I was correct on this thing. I ended up getting a question asked to me on an email and what have you, and then I didn't know exactly how to reply, so I just let that kind of float. And one of the things that I stated on that actually pertained to a mutual friend, and lo and behold, that was correct. And 2 nights ago, I ended up getting this urge, send a message that just said this thing in particular. Now, I've taken those urges up quite a bit, and I make these messages out to, individuals, and not just my twin, but, other people. And it scares the shit out of them, because there's no way that I'm supposed to know that information, right? And I feel like, it is an ego thing now that I'm looking at it, because I only put that out there in order to prove that I do what I do and I say what I say type of thing, and it is for real. And anybody that kind of doubts that, it's kind of like the icing on the cake and the dotting of the I's, if you will, and the crossing of the T's even. And I don't think it's necessary at this stage. Looking at where I'm at, I don't ever get questioned. No one ever comes on my channel and says, hey, you're fake, you're not for real, this stuff that you're talking about is nonsense. I never get that. And at this stage, it's like, even if I did, I'd have all the ammunition to be able to feel confident in dealing with those situations. Waffles, I want you to come here, buddy. Waffles, come. I got another person hiking, so I need to address that situation with my dog, because he likes to go and jump on people. Oh, he's finding a good place to take a deuce. Then I'm sure he's going to walk his happy butt over here in excitement that I relieved some pressures. Come, buddy. Come. Come. Yeah. Come here. Good boys. He comes. He comes. Yeah, he's good boys. Come here. Lays down. Lays down. Lays down. Yeah, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. So, with this knowing thing, you're going to doubt yourself at the start. And all of us do, man. I started off one of the most egotistical fucking people you'll ever meet. I promise you. I promise you. And just go and look up the typical Scorpio, and yeah, I was every bit of that shit. And it makes teaching and telling you guys what's what, because if I can go through that situation, if I can go through that change, then I know anybody can, because I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that has a bigger ego than I did. I mean, this shit's like Donald Trump size ego, and it still bites me in the butt today. I try my best to keep it at bay, but you know, in a lot of ways, it helps me out. It keeps me alive, and it keeps me safe, because at this stage, I am stepping through doors where most people don't feel comfortable stepping through. Putting things out there that I am willing to say, hey, this is going to happen over the next 60 days. We're going to have abrupt changes, and we are going to have some massive shifts take place that end up really pushing us and our limits, you know, and it's all for the good. It's to prove to us who we are, basically, because there's still a lot of folks out there that have doubts, and I'm pretty excited because there's going to be so many more people that are to our level right now that are, you know, able to transmute and shift us through these portals. And I'm not going to lie, it's been strenuous doing it, you know, on my own and with the help that so far we've had. And maybe it's all necessary, but it's fucking, it's strenuous, man. It's even aged me the last couple of years. So it's one of those things where I feel good about that situation. I feel good about what's taking place. I feel good about the collective coming together. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of the things that need to be done as far as the collective goes. So I feel very confident that, you know, there's a true team at play here. And we at this stage are involved in situations in, I guess you can say, the galactic order, the grand scheme of things. And because of what's taking place here on this planet, there's things that are taking place in the cosmos. I wanted to touch on that whole Pleiadian and reptilian and how we fit in the mix, and I wanted to tie that into this video a little bit because of the knowing. And how do I know these things? Well, a lot of it comes from that. There isn't a whole lot of places. Waffles, he sits. He's a good boy. Hey there. At Waffles. I do. Yeah, try to let him walk around, but he likes to jump on folks, so I'll hold him back. He stays. You take care. Yes, ma'am. I understand. All right. So, with that whole knowing of things, this isn't necessarily something that I want you guys to go out there and start saying as gospel, because, I feel comfortable saying these things because I've seen enough to where I know when I start feeling these thoughts and having these memories, they're true, and it will send you guys on a path to where you can really go and investigate and Google some stuff that you didn't really have your mind open to at that stage. And once you start investigating things yourself, lo and behold, you'll have everything fall in your lap that you need to have fall on your lap. That's how this process works. So my whole job through this, my contract, is to essentially be the gatekeeper, if you will, open doors up for you. So you come walking by and I say, hey, you're one of us, come on in. And it's your choice to walk in and experience the ride, go and find out what it's all about. Essentially the guy at the gates at the carnival that says, step right up, look at this, that, and the other, we have this show, we have this one, that's me. I bring balance to the equation, and I get you guys to snap out of the matrix, if you will. There was a little bit of that question kind of tied into, I alluded to the fact that I am here to help the divine feminine step into her power, and that's also correct. One of the things that I have been gifted with is to be able to word things in such a way for you guys, the feminine, to have that kind of shot in the nuts or shot in the gut, like that gut check, if you will, but then worded in such a way where I'm not such a pompous ass. And it's not like your twin telling you it, so he never needs to be the pompous ass. I take the role of being the pompous ass by saying, here's some hard truths, fucking sit on that shit. You can't be mad at me because I'm not even speaking to you specifically. So that's the way that this whole process works, and I've been able to say those things without feeling like, okay, I'm gonna get the heat from my wife for even saying this, or for even thinking it, type of thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I also had to go through this process, because I would always want to win the debate. It doesn't matter about what it was about or what was going on. Come here, buddy. But it's like I wanted to win no matter what. And you can't always be the winner. Even if you're right, you can't always be the winner. It's disheartening, right? So one of the things on this journey that I learned is when to be happy just to end the debate, even if I'm in a position of losing, and accept, okay, I've lost, even if I didn't lose, even if I knew that I was right, take that hit. That's never something that I was willing to do beforehand, and it's something that the masculine needs to learn. It's the path that they need to walk regardless, because it's not always about being right, because there are different rights. And that's the one thing that us as the masculine and you as the feminine definitely don't take into consideration. Both of us may be right. And if I make a big ass of myself to prove that my right is more right than your right, then I'm going to end up being the ass, right? I'm going to be the one that's in the wrong. I'm going to be the loser. And I had to lose quite a few times before I realized that that's not a position that I ever want to be in with my twin. I don't want to ever be in that particular situation. So I needed to learn that lesson before we ever walked down that path. it's what happens in this situation. Everything happens exactly the way it needs to in order to teach you guys the lessons that you needed to learn. Now, a lot of us don't want to learn these lessons, and we don't want to admit it, and we don't want people to come and open those doors and tell us that that's something that we need to work on, right? We want to feel like we're perfect and we're smart and we know everything and we got it all figured out. So as soon as somebody comes in and starts telling you that you need to do this, you get defensive, you know? So this is how the cosmos plays that role and says, this is the path you need to walk down, this is something that you need to learn, you know, this is where it's at. This is why this shit happens to you that you don't like, so you learn. That's why I appreciate all of the shit that happens to me, because, man, I really love knowledge. I love wisdom most of all. God, if I know everything, then I'll never be in a situation that I'm unprepared for. And that's how my mind works. I try to know everything, so I'm constantly in a position where I am never like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? You know, that's not who you want to be. It's not who I want to be. I don't want to be that guy that questions themselves about what the fuck's happening right now. What step do I need to take next? So I've continuously tried to learn and be the jack of all trades and figure out, no matter what position I'm in, this is what step I need to take. Now, when you do get in a position where you haven't ever been and you have experiences that you need to indulge in or learn about that you know nothing about, you have to give yourself some room for error, because you're probably going to make some mistakes. You know, you're not perfect, and as much as you walk through this life as a twin, a lot of things are just going to come so naturally, because we've lived so many different lives and we've done so many different things. You know, a lot of stuff will come naturally, and it'll make us feel like life is so easy in certain aspects. But there are still things out there that you've never encountered, and if you feel complacent and feel like you're walking through life just touching everything and it turns to gold, that one time where it doesn't, you're gonna fucking fall flat on your ass and you're not gonna know what to do. So always put yourself in situations that you're unaware of. I try my best to surround myself with people that know things that I don't know. That way I'm constantly learning and being exposed. You know, you got to expose yourself for the fucking the falsehoods that you are. And if you put yourself in situations where that's readily available, you know, you're not going to ever be fake, because you've put yourself in a situation where people around you will fucking call your ass out. I mean, that's exactly what I've done, and I appreciate it. I love my people that fucking will call me out in a heartbeat when I'm fucking up, and those are the people that I love, you know. My twin was always someone that could say what, and she would have to get pushed, because she wouldn't say things that she know that would hurt me or bother me, and sometimes I needed it. So those were the times where it's like I needed to really push her. She needed to be really pushed in order to set me in my place, if you will. And your twin is going to be really good for that. You know, you're going to find, like, your boundaries. You're going to find what you're here to do, in a sense. It's like, here's the limitations. Now, the cool thing about my situation is I feel like if I ever have to sit down and talk with my twin about all of the decisions that I've made from the time that we haven't spoken, right? And we had to go over everything. Like, each situation that I find myself in, I think, am I going to feel good about telling her that this is why I made this decision and how I came to that decision? And you know what I mean? It's like I use her as that conscience, and it's not necessarily I'm using her as that conscience because I've never had limitations before. The thing is with me, I've always known this life and all of our lives are about exceeding limitations, about pushing the boundaries, about pushing expectations. It's constantly being more. Perpetual motion, always in motion. Everything is in constant motion. Everything is. So you can't ever be stagnant. You can't ever be complacent. You can't ever just sit there and say, yeah, we finally made it, y'all. We're finally at the best, you know? That's not how things work. So when it comes to knowing, you have to trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you're going to get all of the guidance you need to help you trust yourself in at the speed that you're wanting it to be. That's what will take place. You know, everything that you need to happen will take place in order to teach you what you need to be taught. You don't need any guide, if you will. You'll eventually stumble down the path. But if you imagine this is like going off into the woods, having a survivalist buddy or having a guide will always make this journey that much easier. So as much as I've talked down in one of my videos about the people that, you know, charge money, I ended up getting a revelation. You know, I thought about what if I quit my job and just went about and started going through these sessions with people and exposing myself and listening to what people had to say about their journey. And you really have to let down certain barriers when you do those things in order to really get in there and work with these people. And you also build up such a relationship with them to where, you know, it's like family, you know, and in a lot of ways only so many of us have like the capacity and the time to work with so many people. So in order for them to quit their jobs and get into this, of course they need to charge money. And I personally, I don't think that, I mean, it wasn't ever something that I was guided to do, and I'm still not. I'm there to help people as a collective, as a whole, but individually, I don't want to ever be in that position. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to have to quit my job and then make a living doing that, you know. And that's cool that other people are able to step into that role, because that's not my role, if you will. It's always been, you know, other things, if you will. So I don't want to knock those people by any means that have made a living in that way. And that's not what that video was about. And I think everyone understood that, because it did get, you know, good reviews. And I didn't really get any kind of flack from it. But that is one thing that I wanted to address, you know, if any of you guys were offended. And I did want to, like I said, this thing is all a journey for me, and I still learn every day, you know, and I still learn through this process. And that's what this is all about. This whole, my experience has been about videoing my steps and my process through this escalation of ascension, if you will. I like that. So that's exactly what's going to be happening over the next 60 days, as an escalation of ascension. and I'm pretty excited about it. You know, it's gonna wear us fucking out. I'm already wore out. I mean, I don't feel like I have the flu, but I think my twin might. Or I'm feeling that flu of the collective, because I feel it in my ribs. You know, when you're coughing and you puke and you feel in your ribs they're sore. I'm getting that feeling. There's no fucking reason for it. No reason. And it's like it wasn't there all day, and then I get home, and then BAM! I start feeling it, because, you know, when I'm walking around and working, my mind's on that stuff. But as soon as I sat down and started kind of relaxing, and I tap into the energies, see, I'm able to put a barrier and just go into the 3D mode, and then step back into 5D mode, and then start doing in my work. And I'm getting really good at walking back and forth now. Because over the last couple of years, I've been forced to figure that shit out. So I'm assuming, so I can teach you guys on how to fucking do that over the next 2 months. I'm still trying to figure that out. I still need to get into this this alien video, and you know, I might as well just tie into that. But first and foremost, I want you guys all to know that this is not facts here. This, as far as I'm concerned, the rest of this video can be considered entertainment purposes, and I'm not going to be able to say, hey, go to this source and find this information. You're going to have to do your work on this end. All I'm doing is opening the door, the Pandora's box, if you will. So the way I understand it, this planet, Terra, was an original stronghold of the reptilian race. Through the wars of the Pleiadian, which the Pleiadian star cluster is made up of many different humanoid races. Okay, all of them are essentially human, but we have this in our minds pictured, you know, that Pleiadians are all the beautiful blonde hair and blue eyes and tall and skitty and so on and so forth. And that's some of them. The Nordic ones are able to fit that, the tall whites, if you will. The interesting thing about them is, I'll tell you a little bit, they are, in a sense, like the America, okay, of the cosmos, the galaxy right now. Now, there is another one that's better and bigger and better than them, and they were essentially the ones that seeded them, you know, the Arcturians. Okay, now we actually are involved with the Arcturians as well, and I'll get onto them here momentarily. But the Pleiadians are multiple different humanoid races. You know, the Mayans that all disappeared, a lot of them ended up going back to their particular planet that was essentially being terraformed, if I'm not mistaken, and they had to hang out here on the planet Earth, do their thing, and do their 3D ascension process just like we're going through now. And they were like, woohoo, we've succeeded, you know, peace out, y'all. And that's why the vast majority of that population just disappeared. This is a playing grounds, okay? It's a zoo. It's Disney World, if you will. This planet is outside of the norm because it is a truce zone. So everywhere else you still have this war going on between the humanoid races, the Pleiadians, if you will, and the reptilians. There's multiple reptilian races. Now, because of the past events that have taken place on this planet, and because of us specifically, the Arcturians came involved in the whole war. Now, usually, you know, they stayed the fuck out of for millennia, right? They just, okay, you guys are warring, doing your thing. I'm not getting involved in any of that shit. But when it came to us, the human species on this planet, it said they came out and fucking put their foot down. And that's when you kind of hear the story in the Bible about, you know, the fallen angels, Lucifer, all of this above, and then the angels being pissed off like, well, why are you so stoked about the humans? The humans ain't even worth the shit. We've been doing, you know, all this ascension and being bad motherfuckers, you know, and this is essentially the Pleiadians, the angels speaking to the Octurians saying, hey man, what's up? Now, the thing is, none of them really understood how important us on this planet are, because it's never been done. You know, there have been planets seeded, but never like us. We are like a melting pot of alien species on this planet, and it's never happened before in the cosmos. Okay, so like, think about America and how America is as far as a melting pot. You know, maybe not so much anymore, because, you know, we're talking about build a wall to keep all those dirty fucking foreigners away from America. At one point in time, all them dirty foreigners were fucking welcome here. You know, it's like, you go through the process, make sure you're somebody worth having in this country, and bam, when your doors are opened up, even if you got a dime in your pocket, you know, you go through the situation, the test, make sure you don't have no fucking nasty diseases, you're going to infect the population. You know, they went through processes on Paris Island. But ultimately, America welcomed everybody. And we thrived and become a great nation because of it. Not because there were just white folks here, or just because there were, you know, just blacks and white peoples here, or just Mexicans. You know, we let in every fucking body. So all the Asians are welcome, all the Middle Easterns are welcome, all the fucking Indians are welcome, all the fucking Australian Aborigines, if they want to come over, because evidently they don't fucking get treated like human beings in Australia. You know, the interesting thing about the whole gun issue that was going on was, hey, the gun thing works in Australia, but the whole thing that you can be pointed to in Australia, you guys, anyone that feels comfortable about what's happened in Australia to the Aborigines, fuck you, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that shit. That's the whole reason why we need guns for the little guy. Because it evens things out and it keeps your people from being fucking eradicated. If the Native Americans in this country here in America had guns, there probably would be more still alive. You know, they had some guns and they put out a pretty good fucking fight, but they didn't have enough guns because all of them didn't have it. But here in this country, all of us have fucking guns, at least fucking 10 of them even. You know, so the fucking douchebag that's over there fighting for fucking gun suppression laws type of thing, well, we got a gun for you whenever the fucking folks come over and try to invade us. If your own government comes over and tries it. If the fucking Queen of England decides, hey, them dirty fuckers aren't paying my Rothschild buddies enough money, we're going to go and invade the country and fucking put a stifle to this stuff. We have guns to protect ourselves from that. So the Pleiadians have that kind of mindset where they are warriors. So they're not all about, they're very loving folks. And you know how America used to be, this whole idea of love and come here and be melting pot and freedom. That's still here, but we have to fight for it in America. Right now we have to fight for it more than ever. Right now is when we prove that we deserve this motherfucking freedom that we have. This is, in a sense, what the Pleiadians try to do for the cosmos, is fight the reptilians that otherwise want to enslave worlds, right? So the Pleiadians are going around trying to free worlds, and we essentially are made by mistake here. You know, what more or less happened, they conquered this planet. They ended up essentially taking it over and creating us, the human species, or human species 1.0. The vast majority of them have all obviously been eradicated, but the beginning stages of humanity started. Now, you couldn't just make human beings boom from the start. They don't even have that technology. It's impossible to create that. So as much as we'd like to say, hey, let's just create some humans out of fucking thin air, this shit doesn't work that way. It needs to progress, and you need to terraform this planet in order to be what it is today. So when you look at what it was for the reptilians and what it is for today, it's two different worlds. The oxygen levels are completely different. The temperature is completely different. Now, at one point in time, you didn't have a moon. Okay? Now, in the reptilian world, that's okay, because they're like the alligators. They're motherfucking able to adapt to whatever fucking changes happen on this planet, and they're sparsely fucking all over, so they're going to survive. They're also used to the sun at the particular magnitude that it is. Now, that's one thing about the Pleiadians, is we don't have as intense of they don't have as intense of light as we do here on Earth. If they just walked around exposed to the sunlight, they'd get burned up like a motherfucker. Like, they can't just walk around. So, the ones that have been stationed here on this planet, they're, in the fucking underground. A lot of those caverns that you hear about. There's a reason that all of the white folks come from that particular region. That's where the Pleiadians are essentially stationed. So, whenever you have, like, the original batch of us, if you will, we were all made in batches. We didn't evolve in the colors that we are, if you will, like science says. Okay, we were made in batches from different types of DNA. Different alien species were also involved in this, and believe it or not, after the Pleiadians came and gone and created us, if you will, well, there's reptilians still hiding and waiting for their moment to come to the surface. And in a sense, we were created not necessarily for nefarious reasons, but we were like the Pleiadians' dogs, if you will. Now, all of us love our pets, love our dogs. We even take them and get their fingernails polished and fucking spend hundreds of dollars on grooming them and painting their goddamn pink mohawks and all kinds of other stupid shit, right? Like, I've spent a couple $100s on just, backpacking equipment for my dog. So we spend money and time and love, so it's not like we're slaves and we're these objects being used, if you will, but we are, in a sense, like their dogs. Now, whenever your dog does something really cool, like I just posted something on Facebook yesterday about this Australian Shepherd that took a little sled, and he grabbed it and he was dragging it up the hill, right? And then the motherfucker jumped on the sled and slid down the fucking, snow embankment. And then at the very end, you see him grabbing it and pulling it back up the fucking hill. And he probably did that shit all the time, as much as his owner could let him, And I see things that Waffles does, and it just blows my mind. So, in a way, the whole us is like that for the Pleiadians, They're looking at us like, holy shit, we were just gone for a little while, and look at what's happened, They look at us with proud eyes. Now, that hasn't always been the case. They noticed that the reptilians ended up working their DNA into us, and in a sense had kind of taking things over. and they were obviously pissed. They wanted to just fucking eradicate everybody and start a whole new batch. And that's essentially what took place. They moved the moon in. Okay, the moon is an artificial satellite, you guys. The moon was not originally part of the scheme of things. The Pleiadians ended up moving the motherfucking moon in, or the Arcturians did. I still am unclear on that. One of the two moved the moon in order to stabilize the planet, in order to keep it from shifting all of the goddamn time, because the polar shifts that happen on this planet was so chaotic that we, the human species, wouldn't ever have been able to take hold. So they ended up moving the moon in and essentially created this big old flood. That's the whole Noah's flood that you have. Now, the reasoning behind that, I want you to understand on like how the tides work. The moon creates those tides. Now, the equator has the vast majority of Earth's water around it, much like a spinning object. If you take some cups of water and spin around in a circle and flip your hand up just as you're turning it, all of that water is going to stay in the cup because of the centrifugal force, right? Well, that's what's happening on the planet. So the gravity is keeping all of the water from just spinning out into space, right? And the atmosphere is obviously keeping it from evaporating. But you've got centrifugal force that's pushing it out on the equator. So whenever you had these fluctuations in the poles, magnetic poles, you would have huge, like you're moving your fish tank, and the fish tank's sloshing all around until the fish tank fucking starts leveling back out again. You know, things won't be stable. So that's essentially what the moon was. The moon was sent in place in order to create stabilization. Even, damn, I'm starting to fucking get my mind fried because I'm channeling so deeply now. Even the moon was put into position in order to prove to us that it's fake, because think of how it's impossible, mathematically impossible, for the moon to be able to the exact size and block out the sun at any given time. Having solar eclipses don't happen on other planets anywhere. Find me one. Find me one, motherfuckers. Find me one. This shit is there to prove that, hey, you're not alone. You know, there's little things that are all over the place as far as confirmation, much like how Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo left stuff in their artwork. For people that are smart enough, or people in the future, to say, those motherfuckers knew. See, I'm getting chills right now, and you get chills, your body tells you, yay, you're onto something, because when you speak that truth, your endorphins are released, because your higher self knows that, yeah, you're onto it. But the planet had to be stabilized in order to create the second batch, human 2.0. So once again, human beings, the few that were left around, the Pleiadians ended up making another batch. And at this stage, they were like, okay, we're gonna take the best of both worlds. We're gonna take the DNA from all of the humanoid races on the Pleiadian star cluster, and we're going to scatter them out, essentially, on the planet Earth. And that's more or less what happened. So all of your different races, if you will, are the races of different humanoid planets. And you also have interminglings from other alien species, because through the process of that war, the Arcturians made this be a free will zone, made it be off limits from the war. No one is allowed to come and conquer this place, if you will. It is now the humans, us, the Earthlings, Terrians, fucking rights to thrive and to grow and to step forth when we figure out who we really are. And this is the step that we're coming to right now. This is what we're coming to at this stage. But we lost sight that we are of reptilian origin as well. Like, they have intermingled with our DNA for thousands of years at the very least. The Rh negatives are that particular bloodline, that lineage. So there's not a whole lot of them, but there are interminglings going on. And for the most part, they weren't able to breed with your typical O's. So the O's were the first batch, the O positives. Those were essentially the purest of blood. So when you got an O positive, you're highly unlikely to be, getting diseases and all this other shit that everybody has. You're essentially, the strongest of the bunch. The reptilians ideally wanted to infiltrate that bloodline the best that they could, and tried numerous times, and that's where you get a lot of these different bloodlines that you have. A lot of your ABs and A's and B's and positives, AB negatives, and all this other shit. So you have a particular variety right now that is well sought after and is really kind of under wraps. It's the O neutrals, which essentially can breed in between negatives and positives. You have also a lot of the strengths, but none of the weaknesses of the negatives. The negatives were basically, hematomics, or what, hemophiliacs. Waffles, come! Now! Get over here now! Come! Get over here! Run! Let's go! Come! Come! So, a lot of those negative bloodlines, you see all through the royals, they were susceptible to disease, big time. Come! Now! Get over here! So they wanted to purify the bloodline the best that they could, but also they were only able to breed with so many people, because babies wouldn't survive, right? Through thousands of years, they have been trying to select the choices of bloodlines in order to keep their species able to be alive on this planet, because they were all but extinct. The original fucking reptilians on this planet were essentially all but eradicated, and the only way that they could really survive is to intermingle with us because of the terraforming that took place. So they knew that their days were numbered, and they needed to, in a sense, in order to keep the DNA that was indigenous to this planet. Waffles, come here, buddy. Come on. They needed to make us. They needed to intermingle with us and become part of us. So that's essentially what happened. After the first time the Pleiadians ended up eradicating, the human species running around, that you hear about the whole Noah's flood thing, the Octurians stepped in because they understood what was taking place as far as the hybridization of both species on this planet. So, Waffles! Leave those fucking geese alone. Let's go. You need to listen to when I tell you to do something. Go over there. I'm gonna jump on his butt, you guys. Waffles! Come on. Go to the spot where I was. I'm gonna put you on the leash, and you're gonna have to lay there the whole time. Come. You don't listen. Come. Yep. He lays down. Lays down. Lays down. Lays down. He stays. Lays down. Getting me irritated after working all day and doing this, trying to project the right energies, but I am wore out, you guys. This fucking shit in my ribs is like, man, I hope it's not my twin that's got the flu, because I'm whoever it is important, so I'm holding it and transmuting it and not being a wimp when it comes to that shit. But yeah, it sucks. Walking around and breathing is rough right now. But back on this whole, I was at the Arcturians, said that they understood how important we were, because that war between the reptilian world and the Pleiadian world has created too much turmoil in the galaxy, right? And it's time for that to come to an end. And one of the things that I have had, you know, those memories, those knowings that I was talking about earlier, was that I am a pivotal player in the truce, the treaty even, between those two, between the reptilians and the Pleiadians. So I'm going to play a pivotal role in that in particular. And I always question, like, what in the fuck are you talking about? How would I do that, you know? But over the last few months, I've gotten more and more downloads and understood more and more of how this process works, and have gained more and more confidence in what I'm capable of doing and what my limitations really is in this body. And we do have to understand that this body is something that recharges and replenishes and recreates, and it is something that is indefinite if we acknowledge that. We have learned that we die after a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of time is okay, but the 100 years, not even, that we allow ourselves to be on this planet is starting to change. Okay, we are starting to excel, and our DNA is unlocking again. We're unlocking the rest of the use of our brain. We're unlocking all of our DNA, and we don't have junk DNA, you guys. You don't have all of this brain to only use 8% of it. It's it's what's taking place in us. So when you ascend, when you go through Kundalini rising, and you start, like me personally, my confirmation, how I know that I'm already gone through this step and all of my chakras are open. When I close my eyes at night, you guys, it's like a fucking acid trip. I get to see all of the spirals, all of the, and it's almost like a peacock feather in a kaleidoscope of fractals, you know, of spinning fractals around. And it's like you walking through that step from the 3D to the all D. And we look at, like, when I'm interacting with the Arcturians resonate in the 5D at all times. They don't shift into the 3D. Like, we have to shift into the 5D in order to perceive the Arcturians. And when you're in that realm, so most people that have partaked in ayahuasca can explain to you this. The beings that they see, you know, these blue, beautiful beings, those are your Arcturians, right? And they're so loving and like, hey, this is us, and this is what we're here to teach you in your short time that you're here. We're glad that you're here. But it's always, there's so much color and vibrant. Like, we are so dull in the 3D. Like, just this basic color spectrum that we have, just imagine just fractals happening all around you, and ins and outs, and then the rooms that change as you perceive them to change, like at your will. Even in the 3D, things are more concrete, and when you have those multiple dimensions that you're unlocked to, that's what it is. So when you look at the 2D, everything's so flat, and when you get up, damn, I'm fucking getting harder and harder trying to channel this stuff. When you're in the 5D, you have those other dimension words. Like, the easiest way to explain it is fractals, you guys. Trying to grasp those fractals and understand, like, be able to 3D in those fucking fractals is exactly what you see when you're looking at a fractal in the 3D. It continually forever, and we can't understand how that works in the 3D because we're fucking 3D. That's 5D matrix stuff. Whew. But the Octurians get to fucking hang out in that shit. So the little bit of time that the human beings have gone into that world and been able to come back to the 3D and say, hey, this is what it's like, you guys. Listen to those kind of things. Those ayahuasca and betel nut and peyote cactus and Amanita muscaria mushrooms. And psilocybin is actually a little bit different. You've got to get the homemade ones, the hydroponic ones. You can't just go and eat some out of the cow patties and be able to reach those limits. It's just the amount of psilocybin in those mushrooms, in the amount of the poison that are in those mushrooms. You would actually kill yourself by the amount of it. So the newer psilocybin mushrooms that are hydroponically grown by, you know, scientists and chemists and shit, these motherfuckers like push that psilocybin out in order to reach those limits. But I don't think that I would recommend you guys partaking in any of that, because it's a whole nother experience that I've never partaken in any kind of naturally growing stuff. So that's where, when you are partaking in a plant that's naturally growing, even if it's in like ayahuasca, you actually have to have two different plants mixed together in order to make them work. The aliens, of course, taught us that. The aliens taught us quite a bit. Which aliens taught us what is a blur, because believe it or not, the whole story about the serpent, you know, teaching us truths, and that is essentially how it worked. There's a lot of stuff that the Pleiadian races didn't want us to know. It's like when you teach your kids something, you don't want them to know all those things that are going on in the world. You want to save them from that exposure, right? So what of course do the reptilians do? Well, they want to earn our trust. So how do you earn kids' trust? How does society earn your kids' trust? You're wanting to protect your kids from society, so you don't tell them certain things. What does society do? It tells the kids those certain things and pulls them away from the parents. So you get the whole concept of what's going on with the push and pull of the two races on here, because ideally the reptilian wants to control us and manipulate us and use us as a back door to infiltrate the Pleiadian world. So we, in a sense, have been frowned upon by the Pleiadians in a lot of ways in the past, because they understand that we are a threat to them big time. Because the reptilians can't just go into the Pleiadian world and really fuck with them in those places, because the atmosphere, if you will, and the way things are structured, and they've got it. It's almost like here in America, you know, you would have to infiltrate the system and the government like the infiltrators have done in this government and system in order to bring the United States down. You can't just straight up attack America, because we'll fuck up some shit. I mean, we will. The largest fucking standing army in the world is the American public, not the American military. So the folks that you see going around the fucking world and doing what they do, that's just a smidgen of like what the fucking citizens of this goddamn country are capable of. So heaven forbid you ever fucking strike the fire that gets the fucking human beings on this country to stand together and say, you know, and it does. 9/11 happened, everyone fucking, it didn't matter what color you were. We were like, let's fuck some shit up, you guys. So that's how this country is triggered into doing things, is through that stuff, through the bombing of the Hawaii, you know, through the planes in the World Trade Towers, the burning of the Reichstag, if you will, you guys. It's how they infiltrate, and it's how they fuck with the psyche. That's how they transmute. My last video I put out there, I put in some stuff about, you know, how I transmute things. So I wanted to use that as an example, and I gave this plenty of time. The whole gun issue, it's exactly turned the way that I perceived it to turn, the way that I wanted it to turn, the way that it needed to work out. And all of these people are like, oh no, this, that, and the other. Well, I'm sorry, you guys, I ended up transmuting that shit in order to work exactly the way that it needed to. And there are politicians standing in the way of legislation, but the legislation will be passed before the next year is out, I'm sure. You will have teachers that are capable of defending themselves and their students, well placed, just like you have in airplanes. Airplanes after 9/11, you have some random guy sitting in there that you don't know is an airplane fucking officer or what have you, but he's ready to take a motherfucker out if something goes down. The same thing with teachers. You know, they don't need to come out and say, hey, I'm the teacher with the gun, and hold it in the middle of the fucking classroom and all that stuff. There's teachers that I know that already have guns concealed, sitting out in their vehicles. But what good is that going to do once the perp gets inside the building? Sure, they can run out to the fucking truck and get the gun, and sure, those teachers are going to be well prepared to walk in, unlike that fucking loser, fucking bitch-ass loser sheriff that hung out the whole time outside of that building. That just goes to show you, if you take the guns away and leave it up to these loser motherfuckers to protect you, you're gonna fucking end up getting shot up, you guys. That's why here in America it's so awesome. We can shoot the motherfuckers back. Those bad guys, they don't care about laws, okay? There are laws in place all around the world, but there are people, they don't give a fuck about those laws. That's the whole thing we need to protect ourselves from. That's the whole aspect of the Pleiadians. They speak softly, but they carry a big fucking stick. That's us in this country. So when you look at kind of the whole outlook on the Pleiadians and what they do for the galactic order and the galaxy, it's similar to what we do here in America. And here in America is like an experiment, just like the Earth is an experiment. So the Earth is similar to America in the grand scheme of things. It's like, you know, the fractal, the as above, so below type of thing. So here in America, we have freedom. Unlike, you know, most other places, we have the ability to protect our freedom. So someone comes, knocks on our door, you know, and it's the government even. The Second Amendment was not for shooting terrorists or for shooting deer. It was for shooting our government officials that get out of line, you guys. That's the way it's worded and everything. It's there specifically to shoot motherfuckers when they get out of line, when we vote them into office and say, hey, this is your job, motherfuckers. When they stop doing that job and start putting laws in place that take our rights and our abilities to be sovereign fucking human beings, we have the ability to go and fuck their shit up to make sure that they don't do that again. That's what we are set up to do. That's the way Pleiadians are. So when you get reptilians that want to infiltrate and do their little things that they fucking do, like they have done in this country, like they have done all around the planet. And guess what? You don't have to search too far to really find out who these motherfuckers are. It's pretty simple. I just leave it to you guys to open all these doors up, because I'm sure, you know, I've opened a lot of things, but all wars are bankers' wars. All of the conflicts that happen are because of the Rothschild banking cartels, you guys. Look into those people and all of the things that they're connected to. Everything surrounds these groups of motherfuckers, dude. And those are also happen to be the negative bloodlines, you know, your Rh negatives. are all intertwined in those motherfuckers there. And they want to get all these O neutrals in order to fucking, rape and pillage and have pure fucking negative bloodlines that actually are susceptible to all of the diseases and all the shit that goes on in this world, right? Oh, by the way, the AIDS virus doesn't affect the Rh negatives, because the Rh negatives aren't connected to the rhesus monkey. Now, AIDS just so happens to be from chimpanzees, right? So they're close enough related to where they will affect our bloodlines, but not theirs. So the whole Rh negative thing, the whole AIDS thing even, was essentially created in order to knock out that species, us, the fucking positives, and leave them still there. They're still trying to learn how to go about doing it, but once, like, their whole plan was to figure out, okay, this is how we're going to be able to survive these other diseases that we're susceptible to, and then we're going to introduce this AIDS disease, AIDS fucking 5.0, in order to knock out all the positives. Now, the thing is, it should also not knock out all of the O neutrals as well. I'm having reason to believe that the O neutrals are also immune to the AIDS virus, but I'm not entirely sure. So, the whole war that went on between the Pleiadians and the Reptilians is still going on today, and in a way, what happens here on the planet is going to put peace in place with them and the whole galaxy, because us as a human species, we are intermingled with both races, and because of us being able to prove that, hey, we can succeed, and being able to show that the Pleiadians and the Reptilians have both lived on this planet and kept their fingers, crossed in not manipulating us into doing things, but they have, especially the Reptilians, but the Pleiadians sure enough have as well. They have interacted with us and pushed us along, and are helping us now and through this ascension process and being able to break out of this 3D matrix that we're stuck in, right? But we have to willingly ask for help, and that's one cool thing about the Pleiadians, is they're not just going to come down here and fucking force feed us. We have to accept that this is what we are, and the whole twin flame dynamic was in order to bring that to a palatable way of doing things. So the whole Twin Flame Collective has all had their particular mission in order to help this process work. So through disclosure, we are going to learn so much more about ourselves. Our technologies are going to grow exponentially over the next few years. Things that we never thought possible are going to be seen, and it's going to be fucking drastic changes, but it's going to be phenomenal, and a lot of us are going to be pushed to our limits of what we're able to even withstand, but if you're fucking that weak, the way things work on this planet is you die off. Evolution takes place. The weak die off and the strong push forward. And that's the way it is in the galaxy, you guys. It's not just an earthly thing. The cool thing on this planet is we have free will all the way around. We can push well beyond even our superiors. We have the ability, because we have so many different DNAs, we have strengths and none of the weaknesses in certain parts. Because if you think about, in so many ways, we had our DNAs, we had sections in our DNAs that was laid dormant, turned off, if you will. But we have the ability to turn that stuff back on. You just need to find the process of doing so. Once you start on this journey, every day you're turning something else on. Every day you're learning something new. Every day you're tapping in, right? Jeez. So I'm gonna get off of this thing. I'm gonna do my my out. I pretty much touched on everything, and I know I was all over the place, but I think I said everything that I needed to say and answered the questions that I needed to answer all in one video. So I am apologetic for being AWOL the last month, but I really needed to work on some things with me personally, and it's worked out great, you guys. I'm in a better position to help you guys on your journey, and I'm not going to push things onto you, you know? And that's one of the things that I had to learn. I was constantly like force feeding people, and I'm at a stage now where I can sit around and wait to ask or have you guys ask the certain questions that need to be addressed. So whenever you guys have something that I haven't touched on, definitely chime in, definitely let me know in the comments, or you can email me, but I would prefer in the comments. That way, you know, other things that people want to add to it, they have the opportunity to say, oh, look at that question, that's something else that, you know, it touches on what I was thinking about, but could you touch on this as well? You know, that's how I want to move this stuff along. That way I'm able to help the collective but individuals together. And I want to continue doing everything for free. I want to continue living my life the way that I have been and making the monies the way that I have been, because I feel good about that. But in a lot of ways, I know that this year that's all coming to a change. I don't know exactly where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing this time next year, but I know I'm going to fucking love it, and I'm not going to do anything to try to stop those processes from working, and they've already started kind of taking place, and I'm just going to go with it. It's really difficult to be able to channel and see things and not try to look into certain things, you know, like for instance, my twin. I always wanted to know like more things about her and about the situation. I wanted confirmation, and God, I got so much information already, but it was never good enough, you know. And I would get, I mean, I knew this is when it's going to take place. It's not that far out, you guys. I mean, why am I being such a big weenie? Why do I got to have it right this second? Why do I need to like forget about all of the things that I'm supposed to do, you know? And life happens the way that it does in order to set us back on course. So just be happy with those hard times and those situations that you don't agree with. Be stoked that you're in a position to learn and experience something new and gain more wisdom, because not only are you going to be able to have that for yourself, but you're also going to be able to have that for everyone in the future that you're teaching. Well, I'm gonna let you go. This is Brian. Peace out. Love you guys.